Imagine standing in front of your bathroom mirror, right? You're rehearsing a negotiation script 3 times.
Hmm.
You pick up the phone, and you just throw $500,000 in the trash
Huh.
in, like, under 4 minutes.
Oh, man. It's painful, but it happens.
It really does. So welcome to the deep dive. We are jumping straight into a really fascinating text today.
Yeah, chapter 9 of that new comprehensive career guide.
Exactly. The one detailing the hidden traps that, hold women back in the workplace. And our mission today is to dissect what is arguably the single most financially consequential skill in any professional's arsenal.
And negotiation table.
Right. And to really understand the stakes here, I want to start with a story pulled directly from the source material. So there's this woman, and she receives a job offer on a Thursday afternoon.
Oh, right, this story.
Yeah, and she's ecstatic. I mean, naturally. And that very morning, she had actually analyzed the market data. She knew her exact value, and she was entirely prepared to ask for it.
Like she had the entire equation solved on paper. She was ready.
Totally ready. But then the HR manager calls, offers the role of $58,000,
Mm.
and just asks, can you start Monday?
And her response.
Her response is literally, "That sounds great. Thank you so much." And she accepts it right on the spot.
Wow. Just like that.
Just like that.
That-
And it's not like she forgot her preparation. It's just that in that precise moment, the sheer emotional relief of being chosen, it completely overrode the logic of getting paid for it.
Right, because the fear of seeming difficult or, having the offer pulled, it kind of hijacks your brain.
Exactly. Taking the path of least resistance just felt infinitely safer to her.
Which honestly is an entirely human nervous system level reaction to high stakes. Like when we feel evaluated, safety almost always feels better than optimization.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because accepting that first offer purely out of relief,
Mhm.
to me, it's like running a grueling 26-mile marathon, seeing the finish line right there, and stopping 3 feet before you cross it. Just because, I don't know, a spectator handed you a cup of water.
That is such a good way to put it.
Right. Like you are so overwhelmed with gratitude for the water that you just stop running. I mean, you got the job, but you didn't finish the race.
Yeah, that visual captures the tragedy of it perfectly. And what's really fascinating here is just how incredibly expensive that metaphorical cup of water turns out to be.
Oh, the numbers are wild.
They are. The data in our source material reveals that failing to negotiate a first salary can cost a woman over $500,000 across a 45-year career.
Wait, $500,000.
$500,000 just permanently vaporized in a 4-minute conversation that simply never took place.
I mean, that isn't just vacation money. That is a house.
Yeah.
That is a fully funded retirement. It's generational wealth.
It literally alters the entire trajectory of a life. But before we analyze exactly how that happens, the text demands we clear up a really pervasive misconception here.
Right, the competence thing.
Exactly. This $500,000 gap is not a competence issue. Research consistently demonstrates that when women actually sit down and negotiate, they secure better outcomes at rates completely comparable to men.
So they have the exact same capability.
Exactly. The deficit is entirely driven by a participation gap. Women simply initiate the conversation less frequently and, they accept the initial offer more readily.
So the solution seems deceptively simple, right? Just show up to the table.
If only it were that easy.
Yeah, but to understand why showing up is so critical, we really have to look at how a single skipped conversation snowballs into a missing fortune. Let's look at the compounding effect, the math behind the myth, basically.
Right, because a starting salary is never just a number for the current calendar year. It is the architectural foundation for every subsequent financial event in your career.
Yeah, and the source illustrates this with a 30-year model, right? Comparing two professionals. Let's call them Woman A and Woman B.
Yep. And they hold identical qualifications, secure identical roles at the exact same firm.
The only variable is that one of them engaged in a 4-minute negotiation.
Exactly. So Woman A accepts the initial offer, mirroring our Thursday afternoon story, starting at $58,000.
Okay.
Woman B, however, negotiates and secures a starting salary of $68,000. Now, assuming they both perform exceptionally and receive identical 3% annual raises, the divergence over just a decade is staggering.
Let's hear the numbers.
After 10 years, Woman A is earning around $77,900. But Woman B, she earns over $91,300.
Okay, so 10 years in, there is an annual earning gap of over $13,400.
And that gap isn't static.
Right, because bonuses, 401k matches, future raises, they all compound as a percentage of your base.
Uh,
So that initial unnegotiated baseline basically metastasizes.
exactly. A 10% bonus for woman B is mathematically larger, which means her employer's 8% pension match is larger, beating a retirement fund that just compounds faster.
It's just math.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the $118,000 cumulative difference over that first decade is really just the tip of the iceberg.
Because of the total compensation.
Right. The compounding nature of total compensation means woman A is fundamentally working the same hours, carrying the exact same stress, delivering the same value, but her buying power is slowly draining out of her life year over year.
I want to pause here and put this directly to you, the listener. Think about your current baseline right now.
Yeah, really think about it.
The raises you fought for last year, the bonus you're expecting next quarter, the retirement matches sitting in your accounts. Are all of those numbers compounding on a foundation that you accepted out of sheer relief 5 years ago?
It is a deeply uncomfortable question to ask yourself.
It forces a total reckoning with your own financial history. So, if the math is so undeniable, why do so many highly intelligent, capable women avoid the table?
I mean, they understand compounding interest.
Right. They can do the math. But the source points out that the barriers keeping them out of the room aren't logical. They are intensely psychological.
Oh, absolutely. The primary hurdle the text identifies is the grateful to be chosen paralysis.
The relief dopamine hit.
Yes. After enduring a grueling competitive interview gauntlet, receiving an offer triggers this massive dopamine rush of relief, and the brain translates that relief into profound gratitude toward the employer.
And gratitude creates a huge cognitive dissonance when it's paired with negotiation. Because asking for more money feels like looking a gift horse in the mouth or, behaving ungraciously towards someone who just validated your worth.
It does, but it is a feeling masquerading as a fact.
Ooh, I like that.
The reality is the employer extended the offer because you emerged as the most profitable, capable solution to their business problem.
They need you.
Right. Their assessment of your utility doesn't evaporate just because you request fair market compensation. But that vulnerable moment of relief, it is highly effective at shutting down the ask.
And that vulnerability feeds directly into the second hurdle, right? The catastrophic what if.
Yeah.
The intense fear that asking for an extra $10,000 will cause the employer to immediately withdraw the offer altogether.
Which is statistically almost non-existent.
Seriously.
Yeah. The data proves that offers are extraordinarily rarely rescinded because a candidate engages in a professional negotiation. An employer has just spent thousands of dollars, dozens of hours recruiting you. They do not want to start the process all over again because you asked a data-backed question.
The source actually makes a fascinating point about this rare worst-case scenario. Like, if an employer actually does rescind an offer over a polite, reasonable negotiation, you haven't lost a job. You have dodged a massive bullet.
Oh, for sure.
They just handed you invaluable intelligence about a punishing, toxic corporate culture before you signed away your life to them.
It acts as an incredible stress test for your future manager's leadership style.
Absolutely. Now, I do have to push back a little on the next psychological barrier the text covers, which is the difficult woman tax.
Yeah. Right, the social penalty.
Yeah. The source acknowledges that women who negotiate are genuinely perceived more negatively than men who employ the exact same tactics. It's a documented societal double standard.
It is.
But the text seems to suggest that we should just, push through it because the math demands it. But $500,000 doesn't make a hostile, biased work environment any easier to clock into every single day.
No, it doesn't.
The emotional exhaustion of navigating that bias is very real, and I don't think we can just hand-wave it away with a spreadsheet.
That's a fair point, and the emotional toll is undeniable. The source doesn't dismiss the burnout that comes from navigating double standards. What the text does, though, is reframe the cost-benefit analysis of that discomfort.
Okay, how so?
Well, yes, the difficult woman tax is real and unfair. But who are you protecting by avoiding the conversation? You are protecting an employer's comfort at the expense of your own lifetime financial security.
Wow.
The source asks you to weigh the temporary, acute discomfort of a socially tense conversation against the chronic, decades-long pain of being profoundly underpaid.
So you're choosing your own discomfort over theirs. That makes sense, even if it is, exhausting. And that leads into how we actually frame the conversation in our own minds, which is the fourth hurdle.
Framing it as a conflict.
Right. If we go in anticipating that bias, we treat the negotiation as a battle. We bring dread, defensive energy, and this desperate desire to just get it over with,
And the energy you bring into the room dictates the outcome. Framing negotiation as an adversarial battle triggers fight or flight responses in both parties.
which helps no one.
Exactly. The text advocates for shifting the paradigm entirely toward collaborative problem solving. You aren't demanding a ransom, you are sitting on the same side of the table as the employer, looking at a shared problem.
Like, how do we construct a compensation arrangement that accurately reflects my value, but also fits within your structure?
Yes, it changes the posture completely from combat to curiosity.
I love that. So having dismantled those mental barriers, how do we actually execute? The source provides a pretty meticulous playbook for the negotiation table, moving away from like abstract psychology into structural tactics.
And step one is research. Everything hinges on preparation. Entering a negotiation without comprehensive market research is just a recipe for folding under pressure.
Because you don't actually know what you're asking for.
Right. You must analyze salary surveys, speak with industry peers, and understand the nuances of your specific geography and experience level. You aren't searching for a vague idea. You are identifying a precise, data-backed range.
And your target number needs to sit at the absolute top of that researched range. Because you are going to be negotiated down. That is the nature of the exercise. If you start in the middle, you anchor your own ceiling and ensure you land at the bottom.
Anchoring is perhaps the most powerful cognitive mechanism in the room.
Oh, this part was fascinating.
Yeah, the human brain relies heavily on the first piece of information it receives. The first number spoken aloud sets the psychological boundaries for the entire subsequent conversation. Every counteroffer will basically orbit the gravity of that initial anchor.
And the text offers a brilliant tactical adjustment here. Step 2 is use a highly specific number, not a rounded figure or a range. Like, don't say you want $80,000. Say you are looking for $83,500.
Because specificity implies rigorous research. A rounded number sounds like a guess, and that just invites a rounded counteroffer.
Makes sense.
But a specific number signals to the employer's brain that you have calculated your exact market value, which makes them much more hesitant to drastically undercut you.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Step 3. Once you drop that specific anchor, you have to justify it based on value, not need.
Oh, this is a trap so many people fall into.
It is a massive trap. It is incredibly tempting to mention that your rent just increased or your student loan payments resumed. But we have to think about an employer, like a business buying software. A business does not care what the software company pays for its office lease.
Not at all.
They only care about what the software accomplishes for them, how much revenue it generates, or how many hours it saves. Employers do not pay to solve your personal expenses. They pay for the specific value you inject into their operations.
Value is the only currency recognized at that table. A value-based justification entirely strips emotion from the ask.
So what does that actually sound like?
It sounds like, based on my history of optimizing these specific systems and the current market premium for this technical expertise, my target is X. It forces the employer to argue against your demonstrated skills rather than, your personal budget.
But pushback is inevitable, right? That's step 4. They will inevitably claim the budget is fixed or the salary band is capped, and the instinct there is to just apologize and accept the base offer.
But the playbook says you hold steady and you pivot.
Right. If the wall on base salary is genuinely immovable, you do not simply surrender. You expand the table to encompass the entire compensation package. Salary is merely one lever.
The hidden money.
Yes. If they can't move the base, you test every other door in the room. You ask for a guaranteed 6-month review with predefined metrics tied to a salary bump. You negotiate remote work flexibility.
Which is huge.
Commuting 5 days a week costs thousands in gas, vehicle maintenance, and time. 2 days of remote work is a measurable financial gain.
You can also explore professional development budgets, which saves you thousands in out-of-pocket certification costs. You ask for an extra week of paid leave, a signing bonus, or honestly even a different job title that structurally increases your market value for your next career move.
The goal is to extract maximum value from the arrangement before you sign the document.
Exactly. And when you finally make your comprehensive ask, the source issues one of the most psychologically demanding instructions. Step 5.
Oh, the silence.
Embrace the awkward silence. State your number clearly without a softening apology attached to it, and close your mouth.
Just close your mouth. It sounds so simple, but the psychology of silence is agonizing. We are deeply socially conditioned to smooth over awkwardness, to people pleasers, to fill any conversational void.
Especially women.
Yes, in a negotiation room, that conditioning becomes incredibly self-destructive. Because if you speak to break the tension, you will inevitably bid against yourself. You will start offering concessions they haven't even asked for.
The first person to break the silence usually shifts their position. You have to let the tension hang in the air and force the employer to respond to your anchor.
Okay, so we've covered the offer table. But the text emphasizes that treating negotiation as a rare, once every few years event is a massive strategic failure. We have to expand our definition of where the table actually is.
Right, because everyday negotiation is where true financial momentum is built. Relying on an annual performance review cycle, just hoping a manager benevolently notices your hard work and offers a raise, that is a completely passive strategy.
The concept of peak leverage blew my mind here.
It's so smart.
The text argues that the moment you solve a massive crisis, or the week a major client renews purely because of your relationship management, that is your negotiation table. Do not wait 6 months for a formal review cycle when corporate memory has faded and your heroic effort is just like a bullet point on a form.
No, you ask for the raise when your demonstrated value is pulsing brightly in the room.
And this proactive approach applies across the board, right?
Oh, everywhere. Freelancers and consultants, for example, must systematically review their rates annually to outpace inflation rather than handing long-term clients unearned loyalty discounts.
Makes sense.
It even extends into domestic labor. Who manages the household logistics? Whose career takes precedence during a family crisis? Avoiding those domestic negotiations silently engineers professional disadvantages.
So how do we transform from someone who understands the theory into someone who executes it flawlessly? The source is adamant that reading a playbook is insufficient. You have to build the muscle.
It's just like learning a second language.
Yeah. You don't achieve fluency by reading a grammar textbook. And you certainly don't attempt your first conversation by giving a keynote address in French. You start by fumbling through ordering a coffee.
You have to get your mouth used to the unfamiliar shapes of the words. And the text suggests literal, out-loud practice. Set a timer for 3 minutes. Articulate your value proposition, state your specific anchor number, respond to 3 hypothetical objections, and sit in silence.
Just practice the silence.
Yes.
Yes.
You must repeat it until the words feel like a professional statement of fact rather than a terrifying confrontation.
And then you go order that metaphorical coffee. You find low-stakes, everyday situations to practice the mechanism of asking. Call your internet provider and negotiate a promotional rate.
That's a great one.
Ask a hotel for a complimentary late checkout. Request an upgrade on a flight. These are your language apps. Because you can't deadlift 300 pounds if you've never picked up a dumbbell, right?
True.
The goal isn't necessarily getting the upgrade. It's inoculating your nervous system against the fear of hearing no.
And this is perhaps the most profound insight the source offers. The individuals who negotiate the most successfully are rarely naturally
You
fearless.
just have more practice.
They simply possess more reps. Fluency is born of repetition, not personality. They have engaged in the conversation so many times that the temporary discomfort of the awkward silence is vastly outweighed by the anticipated reward.
They know it's worth it.
They have learned through experience that a no is often just the beginning of a conversation. It's a not yet in disguise.
Fluency is repetition, not personality.
Ah,
I love that.
yeah.
Let's return to the woman from our opening story. The one who accepted the $58,000 on a Thursday afternoon out of pure relief.
So when he stopped 3 feet short of the finish line.
Exactly. Well, the source provides the epilogue to her story. It took her 2 agonizing years of grinding work just to reach the salary she should have commanded on day 1.
For years, wow.
But 2 years later, she received a competing offer from a rival firm. And this time, she didn't just express gratitude, she utilized the playbook.
She did the reps.
She approached her employer, presented the market data, anchored high, sat in the uncomfortable silence, and successfully secured $74,000.
Good for her. And how did her manager respond to this newly difficult woman?
They didn't rescind her role. They didn't penalize her. Her manager looked at her and said, "I'm glad you finally told us what you were worth. We should have asked sooner."
Wow.
Her manager recognized a fundamental truth. The responsibility for identifying, articulating, and defending your market value was never the employer's job. It was always hers.
That is the ultimate realization. The defense of your legacy rests entirely on your shoulders.
Which brings us to the final challenge the source lays out for you, the listener. A non-negotiable personal rule you need to commit to today. You will always negotiate the first offer,
Always.
not just when the market is hot, not just when you feel entirely confident. Every single time, without exception. Make it a mechanical rule so you don't have to rely on fleeting courage. The table is always there. It's simply waiting for you to pull out a chair.
This raises an important question, though, as we look toward the horizon of your career.
Oh, yeah. The teaser for the next chapter.
Right. The text concludes with the stark warning for Chapter 10. Because conquering the negotiation table solves your compensation, but it exposes you to a much more subtle trap.
What's that?
Well, even with the money right, are you mistaking busyness for actual progress? Are you working harder than ever, relentlessly executing tasks, drowning in hustle, but fundamentally marching in place?
Oh, wow.
Because the most dangerous career trap of all isn't the catastrophic failure. It's the trap that looks from the outside exactly like success.
Oof. Mistaking motion for direction. That is a terrifying thought to chew on. But for today, your homework is crystal clear. Find your mirror, set your timer for 3 minutes, get the unfamiliar shapes of those words into your mouth. Do not be the runner who abandons the race just because you're grateful for the water.
Cross the finish line.
Cross the finish line. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Now go negotiate your internet bill.